On this day, the 13th of July, in the year 1870, died a hidden damsel by the name of Clelia Barbieri. She was only 23, a pure virgin of the Lord. She, when she was 21, inspired a small group of young ladies of similar ideals to join her in the performance of good works. After acquiring a small house near a church in Le Boudry, they began living a community life. But they retained their secular status throughout the lassie's life. They devoted their energies to the teaching of Christian doctrine, to sewing, to aiding the sick, and to providing every manner of charitable assistance to those in need. She had a particular devotion to St Francis of Paola, and his intervention could be witnessed quite often. Indeed, she managed to obtain the healing of quite a few people by using the oil from the lamp that burned before the portrait of that saint. One day, while standing at the window of the community, she pointed to a nearby field, and she spoke thus: "Do you see that field next to the church? There the new house will rise. I will no longer be here. You will increase in number and will spread out on the plains and in the mountains to work in God's vineyard. Many will come with carriages and horses." So she died herself on this day of tuberculosis. Her last words were, "Be brave, because I am going to paradise, but I shall always remain with you, too. I shall never abandon you." And then things began. On this day, the same 13th of July of the following year, 1871, while the sisters were at prayer in the chapel, they have this to say: "Suddenly there was the sound of a high-pitched, harmonious and heavenly voice that accompanied the singing in the choir. At times it sang solo, at other times it harmonized with the choir, moving across from right to left. Sometimes it passed close by the ears of one or other of the sisters. The joy which it brought filled our hearts with a happiness impossible to put into words. This wasn't of this world. We lived that day in paradise. From time to time, one had to leave the room. The emotion that we experienced was so strong that it left you breathless until one had to call out, "Enough, dear Lord, enough!" The miraculous event dismissed all thought of their night's rest. Instead, since the Blessed Sacrament was not then reserved in their chapel, they decided to pass the night adoring the Blessed Sacrament in a nearby church. They again declared, "But how great was our surprise when we realized that the voice had followed us and accompanied us as we began our prayers." Clelia's voice prayed with them until dawn. Since that day, she has never left them, joining them in the most diverse surroundings and conditions. Eventually, it became a congregation with a canonical status. And in the houses of the congregation, she would make herself present. And interestingly, it would be in the language of the area. In Tanzania, in Swahili, in India, Malayalam. At the house where it all began, the Boudry, in the sanctuary of the saint, people are always kneeling before the beautifully crafted urn that contains her relics. It is from there blessings have proceeded throughout Italy and the world. So, it's actually Les Boudriers in Italy. And this is one of so many indications of the proximity of the saints to those that they have left behind. I just heard the other day from a good Nigerian priest that he had been told by his Irish formator when he was down in Africa that there was a secret. If one was really in trouble, to go to the graveside of a person that had really helped one in this world, that one could be sure was with God, and to come into mode of prayer in the communion of saints. And he did so with a certain Father Declan before his exams or some academic problem and admission, I think, to there's some problem anyway, and immediately, miraculously, something moved, and it happened against all expectations. This we can bear in mind. Our friends are still with us when they're with Jesus.